All right. Welcome, Alyssa. Thank you so much for being here with me today. Here to share a little bit about your life. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you doing?
Good, good. So, I heard you just finished your third semester of law school. Congratulations. That's a huge deal. Uh,
Thank you. Yes, I'm officially halfway through.
that's awesome. Can you tell us a little bit more about your first three semesters in law school so far?
Man, they've gone by so fast and so slow at the exact same time. I cannot believe that I'm halfway through. It seems like just yesterday that I started. And that, I started my first day of orientation and was overwhelmed by everyone standing in the lobby and so nervous about the first day. But, the semesters are long. The year and a half has been short. So it's been fun though. It's been an absolute learning experience, in every sense of the word. But I've had fun along the way and I've really enjoyed this experience. And I'm really looking forward to the next year and a half. I can't imagine if this is how fast the first half went, I cannot imagine how quickly the next half is going to go.
Yeah, and you started law school so then in 2019?
19, yeah,
Okay.
August of 19. Yeah.
So the pandemic hit in March, and that was
Yeah.
probably a huge change in pace. Can you kind of explain the transition from going to
Yeah.
in-person
Yeah.
classes to what you're doing now?
Yeah, so we left the Friday before, or the Friday, we left class on a Friday, and then spring break was supposed to start, and I haven't been back into my classroom since. And that was shocking and hard to deal with. My friends and I, we've created a really good group. And I feel like when the pandemic hit, we were a semester and a half into law school. And I feel like I had finally found a good, solid group to work with and to study with. And I felt like we had just hit our stride. And then the pandemic hit, and we all have not been in the same room. We've done a couple of Zoom calls, but everyone has kind of gone there, in their own separate, homes and had to deal with their own things. And so it really kind of, I wouldn't say fractured some of those friendships, but it really strained them, which was hard because I feel like in law school, with my school in particular, we're lucky enough to have what I felt like was a good support with each other, especially with some of my study groups. We were able to kind of be that support for each other, and it's been hard not to have that in person, and it's just different remotely doing it, being supportive from a distance. But you make the best of it. Adjusting to remote class, especially in the middle of a semester, was extremely difficult. And they altered our exams and our grading, like how we were graded, which I felt was good. I felt that was really good to handle the stress load. And then summer was a normal summer, and we had summer classes, and then we've gone through fall all remotely, and it's just different. It's really hard. The atmosphere, the learning atmosphere in law school is a lot of it's done in the classroom. It's not just done reading books, and it's not just done from the teacher, the professors lecturing us. It's done in class and talking about the materials in the hallway and walking to the parking lot, that kind of stuff. And you don't have that. And so it's been a difficult adjustment, but you adapt, right? There's no other option but to adapt. I didn't want to put my education on hold until the pandemic was over.
Right.
And we're going to be fully remote in the spring. So, you know, almost half of my law school experience at this point, at least half of my law school experience will be done remotely, which
Wow.
has been a challenge. Yeah. Right. So you think about that, almost half of it's on Zoom,
Yeah, that's
and
crazy.
it's nuts. It's absolutely nuts.
It's interesting because I was wondering how the law schools were going to handle continuing classes. I know maybe it's a good prep for in the future if court hearings or lawyering will have to be done over Zoom if something similar happens or if it takes longer for the vaccine to kind of do its
Yeah.
magic and get people back to in person or more often. So,
Yeah.
do you think they're providing any guidance or any skills on how to learn over Zoom, or are they just kind of like, here's the platform, go get it?
Well, I think that I feel like they're doing the best they can. The problem is not only do the students have to adjust to learning remotely, teachers have to adjust to teaching remotely. And, some of my law school professors are of an older generation that have never really brought technology into their classrooms. And so I've had multiple professors that had to learn how to use the computer basically
Yeah.
to teach, and they've had to learn how to use PowerPoint. They've never touched PowerPoint before, and now suddenly they have to use visual aids in their lectures, and it's been a challenge. I feel like that they have adjusted to the best that they can, but law school material is not easy. And it's something that, when you have a piece of technology that you have to filter that learning through, it's really difficult to convey the information. The Socratic method is still being used.
Oh,
So there are still cold calls in law school.
so they didn't get rid of that, huh?
No, they did not
Bummer.
do that. So that's still happening over Zoom. So, the fear is still there. But it's a challenge. I had an oral argument for one of my classes in the fall, and during the day of the oral argument, we had this huge storm roll through. And I was in the last 2 minutes of my argument, and my professor's power went out.
Oh no.
And mine didn't, and my opponents didn't. So all of a sudden, she just left the Zoom classroom, and both of us were like, what do we do?
Right.
You have to figure it. And then she came back on, and I was like, do I have to start over?
Oh
Like,
my
I don't
gosh.
understand.
You're like, please no.
It's a 10-minute argument, and she was gone for 20% of it. So,
Wow.
you make adjustments, but that's really a challenge when there are technology issues and there are teaching and learning issues. I will say that our library has done a fantastic job making resources available online. The building has been open throughout the semester. So if you're local to the school, if you didn't have to go home, but if you're local around the school, like, you can go and pick up materials, which I had done,
Oh, good. Yeah.
which was very useful. So I feel like they're doing the best they can, but this is obviously no one's first choice. So
Yeah. And how do you deal with? So I know when I was in law school, studying at home was a lot harder than like going to the library. Like
yeah.
my library time was so valuable.
Yeah.
It was almost sacred. So how do you do with studying at home?
So my school has offered the building to be available to students, as long as you have to do certain protocols. So you have to fill out like a daily COVID symptom tracker and do a weekly COVID testing, which the school provides at no cost, which is great.
Oh yeah, that's awesome.
So I've been going and getting weekly COVID tests so that I can get access to campus. I thought I was going to stay there and study like all day long, because that's what I did. That's what I did in my first semester and a half, and I was very successful at that. And that worked very well for me. Get out of the house, study where I'm not going to be, watching TV or eating everything all day long. But in this pandemic, so when you're on campus, you have to wear a mask the whole time, and I can't wear a mask like 7 hours a day. Like that's a lot.
Yeah.
So I would just go to campus just for a few hours at a time and then come home and study. And it was a challenge. Like, it was really really challenging. I feel like, my intake of the material certainly went down. Like, my ability to grasp the material has kind of gone down. And it's distracting being at home, and it's difficult for me to learn remotely. I, figured that out in, previous educational programs. I don't do well remotely. And so it was a challenge to kind of make that change. This semester was a little different because I really only had 2 finals that I had to study for. My other classes were either paper driven they were paper driven. So I didn't really have as big of a workload when it came to studying for midterms and finals, which I was thankful for. But next semester, I won't have that. Next semester, I'll have 3 finals and only 1 paper. And so it's going to be a lot of work to figure out the study schedule and where I'm going to study and how I'm going to study. And, to make sure I can keep up my grades. Next semester, I have evidence, which I hear is a very hard class.
Oh, it's hard, but it's fun. That's the fun stuff.
I'm excited. I like rule-based classes.
Yeah. Well, if you have any questions, let me know. I'll see what I can do to help out.
Yeah.
But that's cool. Yeah. It sounds like you've had to adapt to a lot. And
yeah, it's definitely been a challenge. Well, yeah. And this semester I've been a TA, and being a TA for the incoming students for their civil procedure class and it's all year. So it's not only in the fall semester, but it'll also be in the spring semester. And, kind of being that resource for the students is, it's been good, because I feel like as much as I'm providing them support, they're kind of providing me support. And as much as I'm telling them like, hey, make sure you keep on top of your studies. And this is, here are the tips that I have of what you should do and what maybe you should avoid. That kind of, reiterating that to them is helping me remember what I should and shouldn't be doing and what works for me and what didn't work for me. So
that's awesome.
That's been helpful.
That's really cool. Have you found that you've kind of had to also provide them some moral support, just because they are coming in to law school? Not only is law school a new beast for them, but it's law school online. So
yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And the professor that I TA for, her and I have spoken a lot about this, because, when you're in school and you're in the classroom, right, you can quickly ask the person sitting next to you, wait, what did she say? Or, hey, what page are we supposed to be on? Or what case are we talking about? Or even after class, you can say, what just happened? Right. You get that feedback from your peers, even if it's not a verbal feedback. You get the nonverbal clues of whether or not you're on the right page or whether or not you're understanding something correctly. And when you are remote, like, you don't have that. So you don't know if you miss something that the professor says over remote, you're not going to get it. Right. You don't have a peer to turn to quickly and be like, wait, what'd she just say? Or what'd they just say? And so that is a huge challenge. We actually noticed that. So I spoke with the professor that I work for early on in the semester, because we were getting a lot of very basic questions from students. And it's like, I was getting frustrated with them, because I was like, I don't understand how they're not getting this. Like, you don't start sending chats to everybody in the middle of class. Like, why would you do that?
Right.
But they don't have that. They don't have each other to turn to and talk to. And it took me a while to get that, because when we went remote, suddenly in the spring, we already knew each other. So we had each other's cell phone numbers. We had someone that we could talk to and be like, wait, what just happened in class?
Right.
We already had those built-in relationships. And when I think coming into law school for your first year remote, it's extremely difficult to build that rapport with your peers and a rapport with your professors.
Right.
So you really have to kind of take it upon yourself to build that.
Yeah, that's so interesting, because I think back in, those friends you meet the first year, like those bonds are just built so
they're
strong, unbreakable.
Yeah.
Like, it's the equivalent of them being in the trenches with you sometimes.
Oh, it absolutely is.
And so they understand, they know what you've gone through. And I can't imagine, I didn't think about the students who started this year, who they haven't even met their classmates. So yeah, that'll be interesting how that, I guess, what it'll be like for them their second year and third year.
Yeah. And they've started building some of those relationships. They do, I don't know, I guess a group me is a thing. I don't know, some type of social media that's not on Facebook. I'm like, okay, whatever.
It's a new one. Cool. Another avenue for people to contact me on.
Yeah, right.
Great.
Another place for massive group chats to happen. Great.
Perfect.
So, they're building it, and they, the thing of it is coming into this situation, like, they really have to take it upon themselves. Like, they have to, I feel like the onus is much more on the student to build those relationships rather than, you kind of, like you said, that first really that first semester, you build those bonds very quickly and very easily because like you're in it together. And it can be almost passive because it's like the people that happen to sit around you or that you're walking down the hall with that know what you're going through. Here, they have to figure out who those people are.
Right.
And they have to take the initiative to get to know those people. So, it's a much more, I feel like it takes more energy.
Yeah.
So even me with classes and students that I don't know, like I had 2 classes this semester where I didn't know anyone. And like I had seen a few people around the hall and like I just knew them like visually, like, oh yeah, that person's a 3L or whatever. And so I had to take the initiative to at least reach out to one, because I usually like to have someone in each of my classes.
Yeah, so that, definitely.
As like a buddy or
that
like
go-to, safety in numbers, definitely.
Exactly. And it's like, hey, are you still waiting for class to start? Because I'm still waiting, and I don't know if that's normal.
Right. Did you get that back? Did you get your grade back? Is it ever coming?
Exactly.
Waiting for grades is just the preparation for waiting for your bar results. So it's like baby steps to that.
I am 2 weeks and waiting 2 weeks or a week waiting for my grades right now.
Yeah, it's like the longest however many weeks ever waiting for the grades.
Ever.
Yeah.
I had one class end 3 weeks ago and I still don't have my grade. I'm like, okay, whatever.
You're like, I'm not stressing. It's fine. Everything's fine.
No,
I don't care.
I'm totally not stressing at all. I'm not binge watching anything to try to not think about it.
Yeah, no, it's fine.
I'm not baking to not think about it.
Excuse me. Our property professor got our grades back later than everyone else's, and people were freaking out.
I think that's a property professor thing. We got ours back the Friday before we came back for spring.
No way. Like, oh my God.
Okay.
I know when people were waiting for the grades to know if because ours was the second semester, to know if, not only pass, but if they had to, excuse me, if they graded on to law review, or some people, if they didn't get a high enough grade, they had to sign up for specific classes the next semester. Yeah. So everyone was just kind of like, it's so interesting, like how much power a grade has in law school, especially.
It definitely is. It's kind of ridiculous. I think it's ridiculous that the entire semester, literally the entire semester, comes down to 1 3-hour test.
Right. It's crazy.
That's it. Yeah, that's it. Now, I will say my first semester, 3 of the 4 classes came down to 1 3-hour test. And then another one, we had like participation, like credit or whatever.
Throughout, yeah.
25% of the grade was the midterm, and then he had like class participation because he had like an electronic component throughout like his lectures where like you'd answer questions electronically.
Oh, okay. So he could track the participation.
Yeah.
That's not bad.
But doing our exams in 3 hours, I felt like served a purpose. It was so stressful. It was so stressful. It was extremely hard to study for, and probably the most intense thing I've ever gone through. But then spring semester during the pandemic, we got 8 hours to do take-home finals that had no multiple choice, and it was just essays, and that was horrific.
Yeah.
Horrific, because we had 8 hours. We had all of our stuff with us, and it was like, is this right? Like, it was horrible.
Yeah.
It was absolutely horrible.
Oh,
I would much rather have the 3 hours, closed book, closed note, just whatever put it on the paper.
Right, exactly. And at least when it's closed book, it's like I remember it or I don't. If I don't remember it, move on. Yep. Whereas if it's open book, how many hours do you spend looking for that one thing?
For the answer.
Yeah. So I could imagine that would have been a little more stressful.
It was very stressful. It was not my favorite. And oof, yeah, I'd much rather do the 3 hours, get it all out on the table and be done.
Yeah. So Alyssa, you had a internship this past summer. Can you tell us about it?
Yes, I interned with a federal judge in Rhode Island with Chief Judge John McConnell. Jack, he goes by Jack McConnell, for the U.S. District Court in Rhode Island. He's a trial judge there, and he's been on the bench, I think, for 7 years, 7 or 8 years. Um, and I interned in with his chambers over the summer. It was remote. It was originally supposed to be full time and in person,
Mm-hmm.
but they shut down the courthouse, the building. But we were able to do internships remotely. So I interned for about 20 hours a week with his chambers, and it was it was a lot of fun. I
Good.
really loved the experience. He has two full-time law clerks, and then over the summer he brings on like 4 to 5 interns.
Oh,
So
nice.
there were five of us interns, and we got to kind of participate in as much as we wanted, including all of the hearings that he had. It was most of the hearings, well, all of the criminal stuff that we had was all sentencings.
Mm-hmm.
So either pre-sentencing hearings or sentencings for cases that have been going on for, well, it sounded like about 2 to 3 years at that point. For most of them, there were a few arraignments, and then everything else was civil related,
Oh, okay.
civil cases. So how it worked was each of us interns were able to pick a case that we wanted to work on with the law clerks or the judge. And we would help them work on whatever motion was being heard at the time. So I ended up with 2 cases because the first case that I picked, well, the second case that I picked was a quick case about a boat.
Oh,
All maritime law
all the
is
time.
handled at the federal courts. Which, funny enough, my Civ Pro professor was like, "You're probably not going to see this a whole lot."
And then it happened.
That was admiralty. Yeah, that was the first case that I dealt with. Was
That's
an admiralty
hilarious.
case. Yeah, it was a dispute about a boat contract, a boat repair contract, and so that was a very quick motion for partial summary judgment that I worked with the law clerk on, doing the research of the case, and it was a very quick thing. And then the second case that I worked on was it was fun, and it's still ongoing. It was a First Amendment case, and
Mm.
there was a school teacher that was fired in a school district in Rhode Island had fired this school teacher. Well, she happened to be the president of the teachers union,
Oh.
and she turns out was fired for union speech, and was fired while attempting to engage in union activities. And so there was a motion to dismiss, and the judge was ruling on the motion. And so I was able to work with the law clerk and the judge directly on, bringing together all the law. And they actually gave me the opportunity to write the first draft for the motion to dismiss, which was really fun. So I
Awesome.
was able. That took a while.
Yeah,
It took a
yeah,
long
definitely.
while because I had no idea what I was doing, but I learned quickly.
Yeah.
um, but that was fun to be able to pull all of the law together and kind of use my first year law school classes almost immediately in that internship, and then be able to write that summary or that draft opinion,
Mm-hmm.
and then get that over to them, and the case is still ongoing. So the motion to dismiss was denied.
Okay.
All of it was denied. No part of the case was tossed out, and she is on through a preliminary injunction. She's actually back at her job. She was put back in her job in August after the hearing on the motion to dismiss. She was reinstated on the judge's orders.
Oh, awesome.
And yeah, so
That's great.
the next steps aren't supposed to happen until discovery is still happening. So they are supposed to go back to court in, I think, February or March for the permanent injunction, and basically,
Okay.
I don't know, whatever happens next, I don't really know.
Yeah.
Learning that part still.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Yeah.
That takes a while, but that's
But
cool. It
yeah,
sounds
that was
like
that was a really fun internship. I love that internship.
yeah, it sounds like you learned a lot too.
Yeah. Oh
So
yeah.
go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, in a judge's chambers, like, you see all different kinds of law all day long.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
that was a lot of fun.
Yeah. It's really cool too to see kind of their thought process and what they focus on. And sometimes things that I think are relevant when I clerked, my judge was like, that's why that doesn't matter. So it's interesting to
Yeah.
get their perspective. Yeah.
Oh, it's very interesting. It's very interesting. So
So
that was always fun.
Yeah. So how did you find that internship, apply for it? How early did you start? What led you
So,
there?
so I actually applied through this diversity program called Just the Beginning,
Okay.
and it's a pipeline into to get underrepresented students into judicial internships. And so it's not only they not only look for students that are underrepresented as far as race and ethnicity, but students from either low income backgrounds or non-traditional students. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm an older student, and I come from a family that it's not highly educated. So I um I actually applied on kind of a whim because I when I first heard about the program, it was about midway through my first semester. And I was
Okay.
like, okay, well, in the future, maybe after 2L, I will try to do that. Um, but I kept hearing about the program. And I
Mm-hmm.
was like, well, I don't, first of all, when you're in your first semester, you don't have any time to think about internship. Well, at least I had no time or
Yeah.
energy to think about summer
To think
internships.
about the next day.
First of all, I needed to know I could survive the
Yeah.
first semester before I
Right.
could think about interning
Right.
after the first year.
I don't
So
even know if I'm going to be in law school by the end of this year. So thanks.
I swear property was going to be the reason why I failed out of law school.
Oh,
But
property.
so after first semester, I really started to get serious about summer internships. Because they had in school, they had come to talk to us and told us that, like, really your first year, you're not going to be thinking about summer internships until after your finals.
Mm-hmm.
So I wanted to make sure, that I didn't lose the mark. So I happened to be looking on the website. I forget. I had actually gotten an email from our career services that this Just the Beginning program was looking for more applicants because the deadline was like January 5th. And I was like, I'm still trying to breathe after
Right.
finals on January 5th. So they had extended the deadline by a couple of weeks. And I was like, okay, maybe. And then our career services office on the last day, on the day of the deadline, sent out another email. And I was like, I'm going to do it. I'm just going to do it.
Nice.
And I put together all of my materials in an hour. I didn't even reread them, which I
What?
don't recommend,
Yeah.
because I had a typo. Um,
Not a typo. Anything but a
typo.
typo. Just kidding. Yeah.
I had a typo in my cover letter, and I was like, I don't know if that's important.
Well,
So I put together all of my materials literally in a couple of hours, and about an hour, and sent them off the day of the deadline, and didn't really think anything of it. Like,
mm-hmm.
I applied for multiple other internships, never really heard back. I went on a couple of on-campus interviews, um, and I ended up getting two judicial interviews, and I was offered the position with Judge McConnell,
Mm-hmm.
and literally, it's funny because I interviewed with him the week before spring break,
Okay.
and he had been out. He actually was out unexpectedly on a family emergency. So I didn't actually interview with him. I interviewed with his law clerks.
Oh, okay.
And so I actually haven't met him because
Oh, like ever.
I interviewed. They offered me the internship like later that day. And then everything went remote. And so I
Yeah.
haven't met him in person. But I interned with him over the summer, and you know had a fantastic time interviewing with him. So
Yeah.
but yeah, I got the internship I applied through the Just the Beginning program,
That's
which is a
awesome.
program actually out of Chicago.
Okay.
So yeah, so
Cool.
I got very lucky funny enough, the other judicial internship that I applied for was at the First Circuit.
Okay.
And they actually canceled all of their summer internships. So it almost worked
Oh,
out that I did not get that internship because
yeah.
it would have been canceled. But the one with Judge McConnell, I did get, and he still had interns over the summer, even though it was remote, but still.
That's so cool how that worked out.
Yeah, it worked out perfectly. And it was so stressful trying to figure
Oh,
it
I
all out.
bet. Oh, yeah.
I was so nervous for the interviews because,
Yeah.
interviewing with a federal judge. Here I am thinking that property was the reason I'm going to fail out of law school. And then, you know,
And then you're like,
I go on an internship with a federal judge.
Yeah, exactly. It's so funny
Yeah.
how sometimes we don't give ourselves enough credit.
Oh, absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely. Yeah. I really thought finals I was going to be it. All right. Well, I tried. I tried law school.
I did it. I tried it. Not my
Yep.
thing. And then you succeeded. You did so well.
I did very well my first semester. Yes.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And so you're looking forward to another internship starting in spring. Can you tell us
Yes.
about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So I have, as long as background check clears, which it should, but
Fingers
with
crossed.
the,
Did you put me down?
did I? No, I didn't actually. But background check information was no joke. But my internship is with the U.S. Department of Justice.
Nice.
In the Civil Rights Division,
That's
and
awesome.
I will be interning within the Special Litigation section. So the DOJ has different divisions, and then each division has different sections, and they're kind of set up like little mini law firms almost.
Okay.
So the Special Litigation section of the Civil Rights Division investigates and prosecutes systemic civil rights abuses in local governments or state-run institutions. So mental health facilities, jails, police departments, and that kind of stuff. So so I will be interning part-time with them. And the way I understand it set up is that I will kind of be bouncing around to different teams throughout the semester. So I'm not going to be just with one team, just with the, team investigating jails or just with the team investigating police departments. I will get exposure to all of the different teams within the section.
Awesome.
Which I'm really excited about.
Yeah.
Because I think this might be the work that I want to get into. So, we'll see.
That's so exciting.
I'm very excited.
So how did you find that internship, and how did you apply?
So I had actually really heavily thought about doing, so I've kind of been stalking the DOJ website for various internships that they have. And they offer, paid internships over the summer. And I was like, okay, well, maybe I'll do that. And then I decided, well, I'm not going to do that because I need to get class credit. Mm-hmm. Well, after that deadline had passed, I kept stalking their website, and my school has their own internal careers website. And I actually saw the posting on my school's internal careers website.
Okay.
And as soon as I saw the posting, I was like, wow, this sounds really interesting, because that section sounds really, really interesting. Like investigating systemic civil rights abuses sounds fascinating. I hadn't actually been looking for a spring internship. And so I never really considered it. But the work sounded so interesting that I was like, well, I'm just going to apply just to see what happens. Just to see what happens.
To see what happens.
Because at some point I'm going to have to do an internship for credit. My judicial internship was not for credit. So I just kind of decided to apply on a whim. And I saw the posting, and 2 days later I emailed my application materials and kind of forgot about it. And about 2 or 3 weeks after I emailed them my application materials, they asked me for an interview. And I was like, okay, great. What did I apply for?
What was this one again?
Right. So, so I just I saw a posting and applied.
That's awesome.
I was very excited. And I had an interview with them. I honestly didn't think the interview went all that well. Because I didn't, prepare a basic question like, why do you want the internship? I did not prepare an answer for that question, but I it apparently went well, because I found out a couple of weeks later that they were contacting my references. So
wow.
And then they offered me the internship another week after that. So
that's so cool. I see a theme of whimsical applications.
That's sort of whim. I'm just gonna apply.
Just feels right. I love it.
That you never know when you just take those chances, which ones are going to work out.
Right.
So,
right. And you have to take them, even if you might fail property.
Absolutely. God, I hope.
Gotta try.
that. Now I just got to pass the property portion of the bar.
Oh, it's just one little portion.
Just
No big deal.
and all of the other portions.
Yeah. That's a year and a half away. You've got time. You'll be good. Right?
I have a year and like 18 months.
Not like you're counting or anything. It's just...
I have like 19 months.
Wow.
Yeah, not that I'm counting at all. I guess 18 months is a year and a half, but no, I like the applying for things on a whim and see what happens. So.
Yeah. Is that how you chose your law school?
No, I did not apply for no, I did not Elle Woods my law school experience.
No, that's not how everyone gets into law school.
No, my application into law school was a little bit more planned out. A little bit more planned out. They require a lot of paperwork.
They do.
Something on a whim. Yeah, they require a lot of paperwork. Though I'm coming to find out that the DOJ also requires a lot of paperwork. Yeah. So but, I got my
just
door.
an FYI, legal work requires a lot of paperwork. So it's like a theme.
I'm learning that too. Yeah. I'm learning that too.
Yeah. But.
Yeah, and it's not all fill in the blank. I'm finding.
No. Not check yes or no. On a scale from 1 to 10.
Yeah, it's a 12.
Alyssa, can you tell us what made you want to become an attorney?
Well, I've had the thought since I was a kid. And I remember my mom told me actually later that I had been talking about wanting to be a judge since I was like 4, which I don't remember that, but I believe that. Well, I do remember it, but not from that young of an age. But I had, my life has been very different than a lot of people. And so my, whole like 20s and my whole undergraduate experience was very non-traditional. I've been working full time since I was about 16. Mm-hmm. And so by the time college was a reality for me, I never really thought law school would happen. So it kind of just, had other dreams. I thought of other things that I could do with my life and really didn't like it. I didn't like the different careers that I had. And I ended up in this graduate program at the University of Baltimore. And it was through that program that I realized that law school could still be an option. And because I thought it was, you go to college and then you go right into law school. And I thought that was really the only way that you could do that. Mm-hmm. But it turns out there's a lot of different ways that you can get into law school, and you can go at all different ages. So it was through my graduate program that I realized that law school could still happen. And I remember thinking about it because, I was with a group of students that most of them were law school bound because I was in a master's of legal and ethical studies at the University of Baltimore. And about half were law school bound or wanted to be law school bound. And the other half were getting the graduate degree to help them at work. They didn't need a law degree, but they needed a higher level degree because they were working. Most of them were working like within state or local government in Maryland, and a master's degree would help them. So, I was kind of half and half. And at the time I was working in higher ed. Didn't really love my career, but I chose the master's program because, my school, where I worked helped subsidize the tuition. They helped pay for the tuition.
Oh, nice.
And the program sounded interesting. So I decided to go into the program and was surrounded by, some students that were law school bound. And I remember I was actually in a summer class. It was the summer of, I think, 2017. So it was actually right before I finished my graduate program. One of the students, we were talking about the LSAT that was coming up in a couple of months, probably about 3 or 4 months. She was talking about how she was just going to take the LSAT and see how she did. And she was like, her whole thought process was she was going to take it, see how she did, and then maybe apply for law school. And I was like, oh my God, that's genius. Why not? Like, yep. You can at least try.
Yeah.
So I signed up to take the LSAT in September of 2017 and bombed the LSAT badly, very badly. And I was like, okay, I actually wanted to try to get into law school at that point. Mm-hmm. So after I took it and realized that I was disappointed that I didn't do well on the LSAT, that's when I kind of realized that like, maybe I should take it seriously. Maybe I should really seriously try for law school, since it is something that was kind of in the back of my mind my whole life.
Mm-hmm.
And now I'm at this like perfect opportunity to try. So I talked to my program director at the University of Baltimore because I did so poorly on the LSAT. I was very sad.
Mm-hmm.
And she told me, she was like, I see you doing much better. She was like, you were probably just in your head. So she gave me a lot of study pointers and kind of made some recommendations on study techniques and just kind of like things to think about.
Mm-hmm.
And she really kind of helped me kind of see a path for me. For me, she kind of helped me see that there was a different path,
Mm-hmm.
and that I could get into law school. So I took some time and took the LSAT a little bit more seriously because the first LSAT was kind of on a whim.
Another
That was my
whim.
lowest moment.
That's something that's a little harder to do on a whim.
Yeah, that was it. It turns out it's very hard to do on a whim. Also, the first standardized test that I had taken since freshman year of high school, because I never took the SATs.
Oh,
I
okay.
went to community college. So at
Oh.
community college, they don't, like at TMCC, they did not require the SATs or the ACTs. So I never, when we were in high school, like I never took them.
Oh, wow.
So I never had that experience.
Yeah.
So I went from, the standardized test that you take like in high school,
Mm-hmm.
for like the state testing or whatever, to suddenly the LSAT when I'm like 31. And,
You're like, whoa.
really had no idea what I was doing.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Yeah.
And the LSAT is just a different type of test altogether, even. Like, so
it has no relation to law school whatsoever.
nothing whatsoever. And it's just, again, I think it's just one of those obstacles that you have to overcome. And we're like, I did it. You can see like, oh, I can do this now. Oh, I can do that now. But
Yep. Yes, absolutely. Yeah. It's just one of those things that once you get past it, then you go on to the next thing and then the next one and the next one. So yeah, I retook the LSAT and brought my score up by like 8 points, which I was very proud of.
Yeah.
And then brought it up again. Actually took it a third time just because. And so I took it a third time and brought my score up again, even more. So I was like, you know what? I'm done. I'm going to apply with what I have. And I did. So it took me a while to get my application material together.
More than an hour this time.
More than an hour. Yes. More than an hour. Took a few weeks.
It's a lot of stuff they ask for.
It's a lot of stuff they ask for. And I had, people read I had, friends and family look at like my personal statements, my diversity statements, my addendums. I had to get the letters of recommendation, all the things that you get, all the materials that you have to get together for law school applications. But while I, in between studying for the LSAT and working full time and finishing my graduate degree, I was doing research on schools and what kind of law I would be interested in. Corporate law is not for me.
Yep. Not for everyone.
At all. Big law, not for me at all. Family law, not for me at all. So, I really, working in higher ed really kind of made me interested in public interest. I really like public policy and I'm really fascinated by it because it's kind of really what controls all of our lives. The rules that we have to follow on the road all the way down to the food that we buy in the grocery store is all based on public policy and law and all that. So I decided that I wanted to go into public interest. And at UMass, where I'm at right now, they have public interest law. Like they're like specialize in public interest law and have these fellowships where if you commit to working in public interest and you have to do, a number of volunteer hours while you're in school and quite a few other things while you're in school, then you get a major discount on tuition. So when I found UMass, I was like, I think this is the school that I really want to apply to, and I would love to go there. So while I, was studying and for the LSAT, I, got my list of schools together that I wanted to apply for, and UMass ended up being my number one choice. And so I submitted all of my application materials, and UMass said yes. So now I'm here.
That's awesome. You mentioned that, well, you're a non-traditional law student. So
Yep.
from my understanding, that means you didn't go straight from undergrad to law school. Can you kind of
Yeah.
tell me what your
So
journey
the
was?
Yeah, so being a non-traditional law student means I have like there was a break in my education between undergrad and coming to law school. So, like I'd mentioned, kind of my journey to law school has been unusual. Um, when I was 16, there were some family issues, some issues at home, and my parents ended up getting divorced. And then when I was earlier, but then when I was 16, I actually wasn't living with my parents any longer. I had gone to live with a friend in high school, and then actually the family that I was working for, I ended up living with them as well to finish out my high school career. And it was when I was working with them that I realized, or they kind of helped guide me into realizing that education was important, and
Mm-hmm.
that even though my life was a little unusual, that I should still go to college. So I actually started out my college experience part-time.
Oh,
So
okay.
I was going to the community college in Nevada, in Reno, part-time since graduating high school. And I did my entire undergraduate and graduate program as a part-time student.
Wow.
And it was something that I never really gave up on, just because, for whatever reason, I just kind of knew that getting an undergraduate degree was important. Even though, when I started college, I was living with people that weren't my family.
Mm-hmm.
And they were kind of helping me. I was 17 when I graduated high school, and I was living with them and working for them. But they were accommodating to me going to school, and they
Mm-hmm.
actually encouraged me to go to college. And so that's actually where I started. And then a few years later, actually 4 years into my college journey, I actually was diagnosed with cancer.
Oh.
At 20 years old, I was diagnosed with stage 3 Hodgkin's lymphoma, 3 of 4. So Hodgkin's lymphoma has 4 stages. And so I was just one away from the really scary one.
Yeah.
Um, and that was like a huge disruption to my education, obviously a huge disruption to pretty much everything.
Yeah.
And I ended up leaving where I was. I was living in Arizona at the time to come to the East Coast to live with my brother and sister. And they were my caregivers during my cancer, during chemo and everything. So we
Mm-hmm.
would go to chemo weekly. And chemo was 6 months and 6.5 months ish. And after that, I was done. Like I was cleared, and it's been now, I mean, gosh, that was 2000, 2006 when I was diagnosed. So that was
Mm-hmm.
what, 14 years ago that I was diagnosed, almost
Yeah.
15, um, 14 years. Yeah. 14 years since I was diagnosed. I don't know. I'm in law school. That's why I can't do math.
Yeah.
So whatever 2006 to now
To
is.
now. Yeah, that's 14 years. That sounds right.
Yep. So that was obviously a disruption to my college journey, but honestly, it wasn't that big of a disruption.
Mm-hmm.
I was still going to school part-time. What was the big disruption was, aside from chemo, was just the life changes that I went through post chemo.
Mm-hmm.
I was 21 when chemo ended, and I went right back into a life that I thought I could just jump back into, and like
Mm-hmm.
nothing had changed. But once time goes by, you can't just jump into anything like nothing has changed, because time still moves forward.
Right.
Um, so it took me a long time to kind of readjust and kind of find a new life,
Mm-hmm.
figure out how being a cancer survivor fit into my whole life,
Mm-hmm.
um, and to make the changes that really I kind of felt like I needed to. Because going into chemo, I was coming off of, being a 16-year-old person that was, independent at 16 years old and
Mm-hmm.
working full time at 16. And then, I get cancer at 20, and now I'm in remission, and I'm trying to figure out, adulthood,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm still trying to finish my college degree. So I was still at the community college level. So I ended up just kind of I finished an associate's degree in business administration in 2011. So I
Okay.
started college in 2003, and I
Okay.
finished an associate. I had enough I had enough of the right credits.
Oh yeah, that's always fun.
That's
Yeah.
the important part in college.
That's
You have
a
to have the
whole
right credits.
That's a whole different kind of math too.
Yes,
Like
that's a whole different kind of
that
math.
they don't
I had
tell you
more than
about.
enough credits.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Right.
I had plenty of credits. I didn't have the correct credits
Right.
to get an associate's degree, but I finally got one in 2011. I got my associate's degree in business administration. But I found it very boring. I was not inspired by my business degree. I wanted to poke my eyes out in accounting. And so I decided I didn't want to do a 4-year degree that I found boring. I didn't like it. It just, that was the last thing on earth that I wanted to do. So I decided to do a year of classes that sounded interesting. So I switched to psychology at the community college still. So I did a year of psychology courses and loved it, and had so much fun with the classes, and actually got an associate's in psychology, and then switched to that's when I transferred over to the university level. And still part-time, decided to go for an undergraduate degree in psychology. And I did part-time again for another, well, I was working full-time, so I was always a part-time student. But in 2014, so 11 years after I started my college journey, literally, this was another Elle Woods moment. I woke up one day and I was like, I'm done with part-time school. Like, I just want to be finished. I just have to finish my degree. That's all I needed to do.
Yeah.
And I thought I was going to finish my undergraduate degree and then be done with education. So I woke up one day in like the summer of 2014 and was like, I'm going to graduate in the spring. So I gave myself a year.
Nice.
Finished 42 credits in a year.
What?
While working full time. Yeah, I don't recommend that for anyone.
No, that sounds horrible, but amazing.
It was rough. It was rough. It was a good practice for law school.
But I was going to say, if you can do that, you can do law school. Wow.
So again, so I finished my undergraduate degree. It was an ugly finish. My GPA, after all of these, life changes that I'd gone through, I started college in 2003, August of 2003 at 17. I finished my undergraduate degree in 2015 at 29 years old. So it took me, like all of my 20s to finish my undergraduate degree. But I did it. And honestly, I think even we'll see about after my JD, but I'm very proud of myself for finally finishing my undergraduate degree because it took me 12 years. That's math, right? 12 years? Yes. Yeah. 12 years to finish my undergraduate degree.
Wow.
Yeah, that math fits.
Yeah. That's good math.
Yeah. And so I was like, all right, well, and at that point I had already been working in higher ed. So they were, so part of my employment was that they would give me tuition, like they paid for part of my tuition.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
And so that was really helpful. And I knew that I wanted a higher degree because I just felt like that was important, especially in today's workforce. I feel like a master's degree or, just a higher level degree is important. Plus I like to learn, I like learning.
Yeah.
That's one thing. That's one thing after so many years spending my entire adult life in college, I realized that I actually enjoy the learning process. Doing homework isn't my favorite, but I like the learning.
Yeah. Which law is a great area to go into if you like to learn because there's always something new to learn.
Always something new to learn. And there's, always a case that's ruled on differently or, has different facts or something. But yeah, I feel like with the law, I definitely am headed in the right direction.
Definitely.
So when I finished my undergraduate degree, I was like, well, I had this thought that I should maybe look at a master's program, especially since I was working for a school that would pay for it. So I worked for a University of Maryland school, and through my job benefits, they would pay for tuition, some tuition at any of the University of Maryland schools. So I started looking at the programs and found my program at the University of Baltimore.
Nice.
And I was like, legal studies, that sounds so fascinating. Because I couldn't, at that point I was thinking law school wasn't an option.
Right.
So I was like, I'll just take a legal and ethical studies. Yep. That sounds like so much fun. Like I would learn, since I can't go to law school because I'm too old. This is a great fit. So it was so I kind of applied on a whim.
Another whim.
Another whim. Yes, I
it.
applied. It was so funny. I applied intending to start in the spring semester, but there was a mix up with my application, and they took it for the fall semester. I applied, I interviewed for the program and was accepted. And then the next day caught a plane for a 3-week vacation that I had planned, and actually missed the first week of grad school because of this vacation that I had.
Whoops.
Switzerland was beautiful.
Switzerland? Oh, wow.
Yeah, Switzerland.
I mean, if you're going to miss the first week of master's program, might as well be in Switzerland.
Yeah, might as well be for that. Who could pass up the Alps, right?
No, yeah.
So, yeah, and it was through my master's program that I realized, oh, law school could be an option. And it was, it was interesting because, through this whole kind of educational journey in my undergrad, I didn't really care too much about grades. Like they were never important to me. I was much more concerned about learning, and like I had fun with my classes. I was never like, oh, I need to get an A, or, oh, I have to do this perfectly. I was never that student. And then when I got to my master's program, I really loved that subject. Like I really was engaged with those classes. And so I really started to care about what my grades were, and just because I wanted to do well. Like I really was engaged with the material, and I wanted to learn, and I wanted to figure out how to write and take exams and all that stuff. And then I started to realize, oh, law school could still be an option. And so, yeah, it's kind of just, that's how the cards worked for my journey into law school.
That's amazing. That is such a cool journey. And you are so inspiring, Alyssa. Like I've learned so much from you, and your willingness to keep going, especially graduating from your undergrad. I remember when you told me about that, and I was so excited for you, and it's just
thank you. Yeah, that was, I mean, it's been a lot. It's, my journey has definitely been different, but one thing that has been consistent is my education, which turns out is, I feel like, kind of just now my career goal. So, finishing law school, I'm the plan is to be done with my education after law school.
No med school? No, not the next step.
No med school.
You don't want to go to med school with me? Okay.
No,
bummer.
I don't need another master's degree for anything.
Nothing. No more.
No more. But, I feel like with, like you said, the law, there's always something to learn. And so I feel like I have picked a career that, will fit very well with me, because I do love to learn. I feel like the homework, though, required for the legal career is a little bit more important than homework for a classroom, but we'll get there.
Yeah. Well, and you already have the life experience of working a job and getting paid to get stuff done. And so now you'll get to combine them together. And so I'm looking forward to seeing where that takes you. It's really exciting.
Me too. I'm so curious where this is going to take me. I have no idea.
Let's see what the next whim is.
I know. Let's see what doors open for me next. I have no idea, but I'm hoping that it's good.
Yeah. No, and I think you always make the best out of it, right? Like you've had a lot thrown at you throughout the years. I mean, literally fighting cancer at the age of 20. Like that's not something anyone expects or is prepared to do, but you fought it, and you are a survivor, and that's so cool. And so it just, you make the best of everything, is from what I can see. So it's really awesome.
Oh, absolutely. I do. I mean, not that there's not bad moments, I certainly acknowledge the difficult and the challenging times, and the times that just really suck, but there's always tomorrow, right? There's always going to be tomorrow. So, I was given a really good piece of advice from my aunt, actually, when I was diagnosed. She was the only person before my diagnosis. She was the only person that I actually knew that had cancer. So her and I got to connect before I started treatment. And she told me, she's like, you're going to have bad days, and that's okay. And you're going to be sad, and you're going to have those times. She was like, allow yourself to have those times. She was like, but you have to be able to move on from them. Like you've got to be able to wake up the next day. So like, if you're having a bad day, take the bad day, but wake up and realize that tomorrow's a different day. And so I've really carried that with me since I was, 20, and she was in my living room telling me this, and I'm like crying, and I have no idea what's going on. And she told me that, and I was like, okay, cool, great. But, I was 20.
Right.
but those words have just kind of stuck with me. Like,
Mm-hmm.
have the bad day,
Mm-hmm.
allow yourself to have those bad moments, because, you can have them without that being the only thing that you see.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of just how I've carried that with me, even though
Right.
thought she was crazy at the time. I've definitely carried that with me.
Yeah. Well, and it's just like a really authentic way to live, right? Because there are
Yeah.
bad days, like things, and to try to pretend everything's okay, or, to be
Yeah.
happy through it, for who, right? So I think
Right.
when you embrace it, empowers you to be like, okay, this is a part of life. And then that gives you the strength to be like, but today's a new day, or
Yep.
something along those
Yep,
lines.
exactly.
So
Yeah,
that's
and
really
I've
cool.
carried that even with me in law school. I have one of my good friends. We've had almost every class together, and there have been times where I'm like, oh man, today sucks, and I'm like almost in tears, and it's just a really tough day for whatever law school thing is going
Mm-hmm.
on. And then there's always the next day where I'm like, hey, how's it going?
Right.
I'm in a much better mood because I allowed myself to have my bad day. I got the feelings out, and then you move on. Like,
Mm-hmm.
that happens in everything.
Mm-hmm.
That's in everything.
Yeah.
That's not just cancer. That's
Right.
not
Right.
just major trauma.
Right.
That's everything.
Yeah. No, that's so amazing. And it's such a good thing, I think, to hear, you know. Alyssa, what are you living forward to?
So for me, I think, on my journey, I have really discovered that I love to learn and experience a lot of different things. And, I have a few things coming up that I absolutely have to get done. Like, well, the next 3 semesters of law school, then graduating law school and the bar exam. Um, but I'm really excited to get back into the workforce and to take my new education with me, and to be able to serve the public interest. And I know that's a very broad term, but um, I over the last year and a half, I've really missed working, and
Mm-hmm.
I've really missed helping other people in a very tangible way. And I'm really looking forward to doing that in my career. And I don't know what that looks like. I can't sit here and tell you that I want to be an X type of attorney or a Y type of attorney, or I want ABC title. I want to be able to give back and help other people. And I think through my career and my cancer journeys combined, I have been able to do that. And
Mm-hmm.
now I'm really looking forward to getting on the other side of law school and the bar exam, and being able to do that in a bigger way, or
Mm-hmm.
in a more kind of a deeper level with people. And of course, I'm always looking forward to more travels.
Yeah,
So
definitely.
I once we get out of our current public health situation, and I can get back into a paycheck. um I'd love to experience other cultures, other people, and kind of see. I think that for me, I've really come to realize and accept and appreciate the fact that there's a lot of different ways to live a life.
Mm-hmm.
And I am just so appreciative of those that I can interact with along the way, that can show me how they live their lives. And I think that that is something that I really want to kind of incorporate in the future. So that's really what I'm living forward to.
That's so awesome, Alyssa. I'm so excited to see what the future holds for you. I know
Thank
it's so
you.
much. You've done so much already, so I'm really excited to see that. So, Alyssa, we talked about what you're living forward to, but how do you love yourself now?
So I think, one thing that comes to mind when you ask that question, I had gone to acupuncture for a number of years before coming to law school, and one thing, whenever I was always hard on myself or overly stressed, the question that she would ask me is, "Are you being kind to yourself?" And that's a question that always is popping into my mind whenever I'm stressed or whenever things are difficult. And so I think it's important for me to keep that in mind, because I am very hard on myself and I am my own worst critic. And I think taking a moment to pause and ask myself, am I being kind to myself? Would I treat someone else the way I'm treating myself? And I think that's important to kind of keep centered and to remember what it is I'm trying to achieve. I think it's also important. The way I go about it is, I have this goal of, graduating law school and kind of moving into a new career and having a career that's fulfilling and that I absolutely love. But, life is about day-to-day moments. It's not just achieving that goal and then everything's perfect. So for me, the way I'm loving myself now is, I love every aspect of not every single aspect of my life. There are certain things that I don't like, but, you have to go through it. Like, I don't like studying for finals, but whatever.
It's just a part of it.
Yeah, exactly. You take the good with the bad. But, life doesn't begin once you achieve a goal. That's, life keeps going. Life happens when you are achieving goals. So I think it's, for me, important to keep in mind that the day-to-day keeps coming, and your relationships with family, friends, significant others, they happen day to day while you are achieving your goals, and that is important to keep an eye on all of those things as well as these big long-term goals.
Yeah,
So
that's really powerful.
Yeah.
No, I love that. I think it's true for a lot of people that they are their harshest critic, and to be kind to themselves is kind of hard. So
it's very hard. And when I had to start asking myself that question, it's a very challenging question. Are you being kind to yourself? Because if you're not being kind to yourself, then that can become a harder thing to deal with, because now you're beating yourself up for beating yourself up.
Right. And it becomes a vicious cycle.
Right.
Yeah.
You really just kind of have to, it's a good question to just pause and kind of get out of your own way. Like, allow yourself to have bad days, but don't live in them.
Yeah.
Don't just have your one bad day or bad moment kind of ruin a week or ruin a month or ruin an hour. So,
right.
Have the moment and then be able to move on from it and learn from it. And I think that's really important.
That's awesome. I was also wondering what your philosophy is on failure. I've been reading a book about, fear of failure getting in the way of people even starting their goals. So I guess, what is your philosophy on failure? Has that been an obstacle in your life?
I don't think the fear of failure has really been, I honestly don't know if the fear of failure has been an obstacle in my life. I don't think that it has. My philosophy since, I'd say a fairly early age, is that failure is not fatal. And I think that is such a true statement. And failure, if you are learning from failure, then it's not really failure. If you have an idea or have something that you want to do, or you think you can do it, but you're really not sure, you owe it to yourself to try. Like, I wasn't sure if I could get into law school, but then I just decided, you know what? I've thought about this for so long. I've wanted it. I'm just going to try. And I kind of, at that point, I just owed it to myself to try. And then I got to law school, and I had I really thought I was not going to get through the first semester. So, but I owed it to myself to try.
Right.
And so even had I, not gotten into law school, I at least tried. I wouldn't see that as a failure. I, did well in my first semester. Had I not done well, I at least tried.
Right.
I applied for, internships. I've done certain things where at least I have tried, and I haven't taken that rejection or not getting what I want as a failure. That just meant that whatever I was trying to achieve wasn't meant for me.
Right.
I tried as much as I could in the different ways. And honestly, sometimes when things don't work out, it makes you question, is that something that you really want or that you really can do? So for me, I don't think my philosophy on failure is not fatal.
Right.
And as long as you're learning from things that aren't working out, then that's the most important thing that you can do.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's fairly helpful. Thank you. So I don't know if you knew this, but I used to be a camp counselor, and I liked playing campfire games. So I have a couple games. I have a couple games planned.
Okay.
So the first one was two truths and a lie. If you want, I
Okay.
can go first. Do you know the rules of that?
You have to tell me two things that are true and one thing that is a lie, and I have to guess which one.
Yeah,
It's a little
super
hard.
straightforward.
Okay.
Perfect.
Okay.
Okay. So, ready?
Yep.
Okay. So, first, I taught Travis how to use Skype. I became a U.S. citizen at 10 years old. And I had perfect attendance in high school my freshman year.
I know you had perfect attendance in high school your freshman year. So I'm thinking that's the truth. I think that you did not become a U.S. citizen until you were older than 10. So I think that's the lie.
You're right. I became a U.S. citizen
Yeah,
when I was 17. What?
Yeah. Oh, how old are you?
I was 17. It was like right before my
17.
18th birthday because it was going to become way more complicated once I turned 18.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So good job. I thought I was going to trick you with I taught Travis how to use Skype because I
No,
did.
I could see that.
Yeah.
I could see that.
Yeah.
But see, I knew the other two. So like, because I feel like I remember when your family, I feel like you guys did the citizenship test as like a group. Or was it just you?
No, and I didn't even have to do a test because so my mom was a US citizen, but
Oh, so you just
I didn't
yeah.
automatically get citizenship because she hadn't lived in the US for a certain number of years
Yeah.
consecutively. So it didn't just pass to me like it passed to her from her mom. And then we
Yeah.
were waiting until my dad got it, and he didn't get it until like 96. So when I was in sixth grade, and then it was just a bunch of paperwork. But because
Yeah.
both my parents were citizens and I was under 18, I just had to go down to INS, which is now ICE.
Oh, okay.
So
Yeah.
it was that long
Yeah.
ago.
Wow.
Yeah, I went down to INS and I had to say the Pledge of Allegiance, which I had been saying since I was 5 years old. So
Yeah.
yeah, and then became
That's
a citizen,
awesome.
and yeah, so
That's so cool.
yeah.
Oh, how fun.
I know. I knew I wasn't going to trick you with my perfect attendance in high school, but I wanted to put that in because
Are you kidding? You definitely were not going to trick me with perfect
I
attendance.
know. But I should have used I had one other one that I think maybe, I don't know. But the reason I put the high school one was because my brother and my mom went to the Holy Land when I was a freshman, and I missed out on that opportunity because I was like, no, I can't miss honors English. And
Oh my God.
that was the biggest mistake in my life, and I've never made that mistake again. If I ever have a chance to travel, I will miss.
Perfect attendance is only good for trophies and two truths and a lie.
Oh, seriously. And it's not even that good because it didn't trick you. So, all right. What are
Maybe
yours?
someone that didn't know you in high school.
What?
Maybe someone that didn't know you in high school.
Yeah. No, I should have. It was hard. It was hard to come up with some. But how about for you?
Okay. So I once got pulled over for speeding, doing 92 in a 65. I once broke my toe in a snowball fight. And my favorite fruit is an orange.
I definitely feel like your favorite fruit is not an orange. Is it an orange?
I hate oranges.
Yes, I knew that. Okay, great. I was like, am I the worst friend ever? But
Nope.
But you broke your toe in a snowball fight?
I did. I was like 10 years old living in Maine.
What?
Yep. I was actually, I think I was 11.
Oh.
And we had like this big snowstorm. And then once it cleared, we didn't go to school for like 3 days. And so my brother and I, because my brother and I were real close in age, invited all like the neighborhood kids over. And we had this like fantastic snowball fight. And I was walking up a hill and I turned around and one of the kids like tackled me from the side and I landed weird and in my foot I broke my toe.
Ouch. Ouch.
Yep, that's my toe. I was 11.
And the 92 and a 65 was so specific that I'm like, yeah, it had to happen. Where was that?
Nevada.
Oh, awesome. Yeah. The land.
Yeah,
Yeah.
nothing really happened. It was Nevada.
It's all good. That's fun.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep.
So I have one more game. It's called Rapid Fire. So I'm going to put a minute on the clock, and then I'm just going to pick questions out of this beautiful mug.
Oh, fun.
Yeah. And we're going to see how many you can get in a minute. So
Okay.
let me...
Are these like real questions, like fact and like knowledge questions, or like about me questions? Or do I get to find out?
You get to find out, but it's not like, it's nothing to be, like, I'm not going to make you, like, answer law questions. It's not going to be like your, it's not going to be a final. Like, you've already taken your finals. You'll be fine. You've survived that. You can survive this. All right, so I'm setting the clock for 1 minute, and we're going to start.
Okay.
Where's the first place you'll go after quarantine?
Probably on an airplane to go see my nephew, I hope.
What's the most adventurous thing you've ever done?
I did a solo international trip to Santiago, Chile, and I didn't speak the language.
Ooh. What's the last book you read?
A textbook. Probably my constitutional law book.
Super fun. What do you prefer, sweet or savory?
Ooh, depends on my mood.
What's
I
your
lean towards sweet though.
Okay. What's your favorite comfort food?
Indian food.
What's your philosophy about work?
Work hard, play harder. Work smart, play harder.
Would you rather bake or cook?
Bake.
What would be your superpower?
Ooh, to be able to hear all things.
Ooh.
Invisibility.
Ooh, time's up.
I don't know. Is that a superpower? I don't really know what superpowers are.
Yeah, I mean, it's like something that we can't do. It's a power. Yeah. Invisibility and hearing everything, but that would get really loud.
I want to be like Samantha on Bewitched and just wiggle my nose and things will happen.
That would be awesome.
Yeah.
So let's see. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. All right, Alyssa, you have a timer for me and some questions?
I do. Okay.
Awesome.
Let's get started.
Let's do it.
What's the first concert you attended?
The first what? Concert and sing.
Concert. I was not prepared for that. Texting or talking?
Ooh, talking or depends, but talking.
Talking. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Where is your happy place?
On the beach. Yeah.
Nice. Okay. Favorite baked good?
Chocolate chip cookie.
Ooh, I love making those.
They're so good. You can make them for me.
What's your favorite spirit animal?
Tiger, white tiger.
Ooh,
yeah.
Okay.
Ever since elementary school, I even did a report on them. So.
Ooh, fun. Place you want to travel to most?
South America. I haven't been there yet. So.
Awesome. Yeah. Would you rather cuddle with a baby panda or a baby penguin?
Ooh. Probably a panda, but probably kind of vicious. But.
Yeah, panda. Is it wrong for a vegetarian to eat animal crackers?
Yes. Just sounds wrong.
Oh, my timer stopped.
Oh.
Okay, it sounds wrong, but yes. My timer totally stopped, but it didn't buzz.
Oh, that's funny. Was that your last question?
That was.
Oh, okay. That was a funny one.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 questions.
6 questions. Oh, man. Well, they were good questions.
Did you have a report on white tigers?
I did in 4th grade. I don't know why I remember that so well. It was like the endangered species list. And I don't know. I always like tigers. They're just strong
Tigers are
animals.
cool. Yeah.
What's your spirit animal or favorite?
I don't know. I don't know.
No.
I don't know if I could pick one.
Yeah. I think that also depends on the day. I love too that I'm a Leo because I really like the idea of being like a lioness. Lion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You need to have your pride with you.
Yeah. Yeah. So
Yeah.
awesome.
See, I'm a Libra, and I have to be the diplomat. I'm the eternal diplomat. I can't just pick one.
That's fair. That's you're living up to it.
Right. I cannot just pick one. We can have a whole conversation about why certain animals are better or not better, but I can't pick just one.
No. There's no picking. That's awesome. Oh, thank you so much for meeting with me again and going over that
Absolutely.
stuff. Yeah, that was fun.
This was fun.
Yeah.